The Pittsburgh Steelers didn't add any upgrades to their roster through trades at the NFL trade deadline this week. But that wasn't due to a lack of trying on the part of general manager Omar Khan. Steelers insider Mark Kaboly reported Wednesday on his podcast that Khan was aggressive at the league's trade deadline. However, Khan ultimately didn't execute a trade due to the asking prices. There were some guys they were in on pretty deep that stayed put, Kaboly said on the Kaboly Plus Mac podcast via Steelers Depot's Ross McCorkle. Do I know the exact names of these people? No, but he went out there and they tried to upgrade the wide receiver position and they just weren't going to sell the farm. You sell the farm to a degree if it's a guy that you know is going to come in and be a difference maker. When did Jakobi Meyers turn into Jerry Rice? Pundits linked the Steelers to Jakobi Meyers, along with several other receivers, before Tuesday. Meyers landed with the Jacksonville Jaguars in a trade hours before the deadline. Steelers unwilling to meet asking price to trade for WR, report. Kaboly's report gels with what other pundits were saying Tuesday. Bleacher Report's James Palmer said hours prior the Steelers were exploring several different potential upgrades. I've been hearing Pittsburgh is definitely out there being aggressive, Palmer said. They are looking at different players. Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin certainly teased the possibility of the team making a move. We'll see what happens, Tomlin said with a smile. I like shopping. But the trade deadline passed at 4 p.m. Eastern Time on Tuesday, without the Steelers making another trade. If the Steelers were going to acquire Meyers, they would have needed to best Jacksonville's offer. The Jaguars sent 2026 4th and 6th round picks to the Las Vegas Raiders for Meyers. Fellow wideout Rashid Shaheed also changed teams through a trade Tuesday. The Seattle Seahawks acquired Shaheed from the New Orleans Saints for 2026 4th and 5th rounders. According to Kaboly, the Steelers pursued other receiver targets on the trade market. But other teams didn't trade those potential targets. Omar Khan trusting Steelers' current WRs. Parts of Steelers Nation were very disappointed with the team's trade deadline inactivity, especially at receiver. Pundits have been calling for the Steelers to add a wideout since the organization traded George Pickens in May. Kaboly's report confirms that Khan felt the team needed another receiver in 2025. But making a move just for the sake of doing one isn't the best strategy. Overpaying for only a marginal upgrade isn't a good idea either. While Calvin Austin III and Roman Wilson are far from household names, they're serviceable in WR2 and WR3 roles for an offense that heavily features 3 tight ends. In conclusion, Kaboly said there just very likely wasn't a trade that made sense for the Steelers. I can guarantee you that Omar was working his ass off with these phones trying to find a deal, Kaboly added. For him to just step back, we know how much he likes to make some moves, saying nothing just quite makes sense. Nothing must have really not made any sense for him whatsoever. Perhaps recognizing that Aaron Rodgers is the only other player on the Pittsburgh Steelers roster who was born in the 1980s, Cameron Heyward takes every opportunity to needle Rodgers because of his age. He's old, the 36-year-old Heyward said of Rodgers on Wednesday. Moments later, Heyward delivered a zinger. He's a big Nickelback guy, citing one of rock bands associated with the decade of the 2000s, a decade during which many of their current teammates were born. A few weeks shy of his 42nd birthday, Rodgers hasn't let Heyward off the hook for his age, either. I like to razz him, Rodgers said this week, from time to time. Rodgers and Heyward form something of an odd couple. Heyward, a 15-year veteran defensive tackle who grew up in Georgia and went to college at Ohio State. Rodgers, a California native who went to Cal Berkeley and spent 18 NFL seasons as a quarterback in Green Bay. But the duo has paired up to make for quite the leadership team for the Steelers. He's been bought in since he's gotten here, Heyward said of Rodgers. We joke off the field, but we do challenge each other and try to make sure we do what's best for the team and we have the right pulse of the team. It's just about communicating and making sure we can go forward. Rodgers is serving as captain for a third different franchise over a 4-year span. He's been a captain for 15 seasons. Heyward has been a Steelers defensive captain for 11 consecutive seasons. No players on the Steelers roster are older than Rodgers or Heyward, and none can match their years of experience in the NFL or in a formal captaincy. I really appreciate his leadership, Rodgers said. He's a guy who knows how to use his voice at the right times, and his play has been stellar. He's made some plays where he's hustling the backside of balls being on the flat that are really impressive. He's pushed the pocket in the middle. He's got his hands on a lot of footballs that have been key, kind of game-changing plays for us.
He's a steady guy.
I'm really fortunate to play with Cam Hayward. Hayward in March groused on his podcast that Rodgers was at that point not committing to playing for the Steelers, saying, either you want to be a Pittsburgh Steeler or you don't. It's that simple. Hayward later walked that sentiment back, and by the time Rodgers signed with the Steelers in June, the two had begun to bond. This week, Hayward referenced that Rodgers' reputation in the eyes of some is misconstrued. By the midpoint of the season, one that is showing some promise for the Steelers, who sit at 5-3, the two veterans have developed a relationship in which each feels comfortable going to the other with ideas in regards to helping the team. It just speaks to who he is as a person, Hayward said of Rodgers. I've had fun getting to know him. We kid and joke, but we enjoy playing these type of games. We enjoy the challenge week in and week out. I think we're all just trying to attain one goal, but the main goal is simply going 1-0 this week. Pittsburgh Steelers outside linebacker Alex Highsmith popped up on Wednesday's injury report with an ankle injury, and he did not practice. Highsmith battled a high ankle sprain earlier this year that forced him to miss 3 games. In his absence, third-year pass rusher Nick Herbig played like nothing short of a superstar. He had 2.5 sacks, 14 pressures, and 8 quarterback hits over the 2.5 games of relief he has played in throughout that time. Highsmith had a sprained ankle last season and missed multiple games after going down with the injury. He also missed time this offseason and last year with a groin injury that continuously has popped up throughout his career. The Steelers had a rash of soft tissue injuries in 2024 that forced multiple players to miss significant time, including Highsmith, who still rounded into a productive year despite missing time with that groin injury, as well as an ankle injury. Highsmith's injury troubles in 2024 were an outlier in his career, and he hopes to put those behind him in 2025 as he rounds into game shape once again. Now, the Steelers hope he stays healthy after an excellent game against the Indianapolis Colts earned him AFC Defensive Player of the Week honors following a 2-sack performance. The over-under is set at 50.5 points on DraftKings for Sunday's AFC matchup featuring the Steelers and the Chargers. Our complete DraftKings Sportsbook review shows you how to register and use their platform. For all of the best Steelers Week 10 odds, check out our expert insights.